There's a story of this Mexican pilot. As he tries to descend, he realizes his craft, his airplane's not responding. As he's rising, he begins to lose consciousness and finally just passes out. There's a recording of the conversation where for an hour, this guy is getting this weird feedback from Raphael that sounds like another alien species talking to him. He says something to the effect of, "This is not Raphael. We come to you from another planet. We're using his body as a microphone. You need to understand that your species is on the brink of destruction, that you're using nuclear weapons." The story has been buried in an archive in this library in Mexico. And the way we got access to it, I kid you not, is I told this story actually on the Story Time with Mr. Ballin, the new show we've been doing. I told it to Tom Segura on our first episode. The shortened version of it is, there's a story of this Mexican pilot who's this young civilian pilot who was learning how to fly just as a civilian. He's like a 21-year-old kid, forget his name. And there was the day where he was going to fly solo for the first time. So he shows up to the airfield. I think it's called Chimalacán, Mexico. I'm butchering the name. He shows up, he's done all his tandem or whatever you call it, flights with an instructor. Today he's going to fly on his own. And the flight path that he was going to be on was very simple. Take off, do a couple of turns, come back and land, just show us you can do it, and then, you're certified. So he's not nervous. He gets in the plane. He takes off. I think it was like 9:15 in the morning. I want to say this is in the 80s or 90s, if I forget, but it wasn't super recent. He takes off, and everything's going fine, and he begins making his turn, and then at a certain point, there's like this fog that rolls in, and they were sort of aware of the fog, but the fog, like, it really came in fast. And as he's entering this fog, he loses his visibility. And this is also at a time where the instruments in the aircraft were pretty rudimentary. Like, it was basically dead reckoning. You're sort of looking out the window to see where you're going. This might even have been in the 60s or 70s now that I think about it. It was not recent. And all he's got is like his compass and like his altimeter. Like, he doesn't have much going on. And he's just sort of looking out the window, and he's seeing where he's at. And he's like, okay, I'm good. He's like making his turn. But at a certain point, he knows he needs to begin to descend to land. And he basically knows where he is. He figures, once I go below the fog, I'm going to see the runway and I'll land. But as he tries to descend, he realizes his craft, his airplane's not responding. It's flying, it's steady, it's not faltering, but it's not descending. And he tries to like pull the yoke to one side. It's not turning right. It's not turning left. He can't do anything. He's not panicking, but as this is happening, he realizes that, the plane is not just leveled off. It actually is beginning to climb, and he has no control over it. He's just going up. And so he goes over the radio. He's trying to tell, I guess the air traffic control, like, what's going on, but he doesn't really even know what's going on, other than he's lost control of his aircraft. He's in this big, cloud of fog. He's sort of, losing sight of anything. And as he's rising, he begins to lose consciousness and finally just passes out. So he's riding up into the clouds with no control, and he passes out. And so Raphael, pretty sure his name's Raphael. For the sake of this story, I'm going to call him Raphael from here on out. So Raphael, he wakes up sort of abruptly, and he's like, like looking around, and immediately he takes stock of, what's going on, because he just passed out in the cockpit a minute ago, and he's flying solo, pretty dangerous. And he sees that his plane's still flying. He's flying level. His plane's fine, and the mist is all gone. The fog is all gone. And he looks out his window, and he sees that, not only is the fog all gone, but he's actually over a very, new looking environment. He's flying over water. Now, in every direction, it's water. And, he's really just happy that he hasn't crashed, and he can't really picture how he got here. But as he's sort of taking stock and, taking back control of the plane, and now he does have control of the plane again, he realizes there's somebody trying to talk to him on the radio. And they're like, hey, Raphael, like, hey, what's going on, Raphael? And he's like, oh my God, like, I don't even know what to say to you. Like, I don't even know where I am. And the guy over the radio is air traffic control off the coast of, I forget where it is, some coastal city in Mexico. They're like, hey, I've been talking to you for the last hour or so. Are you okay? And is somebody with you right now? And Raphael's like, what? Like, no, like, it's just me. I fell asleep. I don't know how I got here. And so the air traffic control guy is very like suspect of what's going on. And he's like, hey, do me a favor, like, turn around, like, come over here. You're going to land right here at whatever city this is. You're gonna come land right here. We're gonna talk to you, okay? And so he's like, thank you, okay. So he turns around and he lands. And where he is, I'm now forget. I think it's 3 hours away from where he took off. Where he lands is a 3-hour flight away. Let's just put it that way. I forget the name of where he lands. So he lands, and as soon as he lands, like he's thinking like, oh my God, I'm getting in so much trouble. I definitely didn't pass my test. Like this did not go well. He gets out of his aircraft, and there's all these people waiting for him. Like these like stereotypical, like in suits, like government officials. They show, that's what it looks like. That's the way he reports it. They take him, and before he can even ask questions about what the heck just happened, they're like, hey, you're gonna come with us. We're gonna screen you and see if you're on drugs. And also we want to give you a psychological test to make sure you're sane. And, the whole time he's like, what is going on? He's trying to ask questions. Nobody's giving him an answer. Like it's these, people in suits that have just kind of whisked him away to this hospital. And he gets to the hospital and they give him a drug screening and he's totally sober. And they have a psychologist talk to him who determines that he's shaken, but he's sane. And it's only at that point that they're like, all right, Raphael, we're gonna tell you what the heck's going on here. And he has no idea. He's like totally clueless what's happened here. So he took off at like 9:15 a.m. This is what they told him. They're like, you took off at 9:15 a.m. You flew up into the cloud. And then no one could find you again. And then at about, I want to say it was like, I forget the time exactly, but it was like an hour later or an hour and a half later, call it like 10:30, 10:45, air traffic control off the coast of Mexico, they picked up this blip on their radar flying in circles out over the water. And it was Raphael. And they're like, what are you doing here? The guy who was like, hey, are you alone in the cockpit right now? That guy, that same air traffic control, he got on the radio with Raphael. And he spoke to him for an hour and they recorded his conversation. And at some point in this conversation with Raphael that Raphael doesn't remember, there's a recording of this. I wish I could play for you right now, where Raphael, it doesn't sound like him, but he's the only one in the cockpit and it's recorded on air traffic control. He says something to the effect of, this is not Raphael. We come to you from another planet. We're using his body as a microphone. You need to understand that your species is on the brink of destruction, that you're using nuclear weapons, you're about to turn on yourselves, and you're going to annihilate yourselves if you don't stop. And if you don't stop, like the insinuation was entities other than, people on Earth are going to intervene and stop you. It was basically like, stop fucking around on Earth and blowing shit up and killing each other, or else someone's going to have to intervene. It's sort of like the message, but it's said through Raphael. And if you listen to it, even though it's in Spanish, it sounds horrifying. His voice sounds deep and it's like garbly, and you can tell the air traffic control guy as he's talking back and forth to him, he's unnerved by it. And then magically at like 10:30 or 10:45, when Raphael comes to in the cockpit, his voice totally changes on the recording. He's like, hey, what's going on? I just woke up. So Raphael has no memory of it, but there's a couple other anomalies that don't really add up. One, you have just the fact that there's a recording of the conversation where for an hour, this guy is getting this weird feedback from Raphael that sounds like another alien species talking to him. But also the plane itself, it's a 3-hour flight to get to that body of water. And he had enough fuel in his plane, I want to say for like an hour's flight or 2 hours flight, it was less. When they recovered his plane, he had like 3/4 full tank of gas. So just to get to where he was, even if he had flown straight, one, he didn't have enough time because it was 9:15-ish takeoff, 10:45 a.m. or whatever it was, he's found over the body of water. That's not 3 hours, that's an hour and a half. So it's less than 3 hours. So even a fast plane couldn't have got there in 3 hours. And the fuel was literally like too full to be there. And so the only way you can get this story, this is sort of dramatic, but it's good for the story. The story's not really widely talked about because it's like a very scrutinized story in Mexico, because people are like, this is the best piece of evidence that something weird's going on. Like, there could be aliens out there. This feels like proof. The story has been buried in an archive in this library in Mexico. And the way we got access to it, I kid you not, is we had to write a handwritten letter to this Mexican library to request to use the story in the recording, because it's the recording. That's the transcript in the recording. And then when we asked, they had to interview us to figure out what we were using it for.
I
swear to God.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And they were like, whatever you do, don't make a video about it on the internet.
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.